At the beginning of the film, we learn the backstory of Shelley's life. The girl was dropped off in a basket at the door of the orphanage where she spent most of her childhood. Many children were adopted, but not Shelley herself. After a while, however, the girl changed like magic and found her perfect home, where she would like to spend the rest of her life. Shelley lives in a Playboy house and works as a model. Because of her appearance, the model will soon be on the magazine's spread. Shelley is living her perfect life as she is surrounded by attention, luxury. Together with her friends, the model goes shopping and to restaurants, where she continues to enjoy her opportunities. Shelley keeps in good shape, doing sports, and also constantly buys herself new clothes. Soon comes the 27th birthday of the model. Shelley celebrates it with glamour and feels that she has never been so happy before. In the morning, the model wakes up from breakfast in bed and sees a letter on a tray. Shelley opens it hopefully, hoping that she has become Miss November. However, the reality turns out to be far more shocking. Hefner reports that Shelley must leave the mansion within 2 hours. Marvin, who brought breakfast, suggests that this decision was made because of the model's age. Shelley doesn't want to leave her home and decides to talk to her boss herself. However, Marvin reveals that Hefner has gone to Las Vegas. Shelley doesn't understand why she has to leave in an old car. However, Marvin explains that all new cars belong to the company, not the models. Upset, Shelley leaves the mansion. The model decides to spend the night in the car, but is approached by a policeman. When Shelley is told to take a device in her mouth, she misunderstands the man. The policeman brings the model to the detention center, where everyone makes fun of her naivety. Shelley goes to the town and decides to follow the pretty girls. Soon, the model finds a house that looks exactly like a mini Playboy Mansion. Shelley goes inside and learns that only students can live in the place. The model notices several women in the next room and chats with them. Shelley learns that these are the campus superintendents. They make sure the girls' dorms are orderly and secure. One of the women advises the model to go to Zeta's dormitory. Shelley goes there and sees that the building is in disrepair. Natalie, one of the superintendents, tells her that their dorm wants to close down because they are losers. The other dorms are having parties and attracting boys. Shelley claims to be an expert on those two things, but the superintendent refuses her help. Natalie returns to the dorm and tells the girls that they may be covered. At that moment, one of them notices the boys on the lawn. It turns out that Shelley wasn't going anywhere and decided to get attention with yoga. One of the guys says he would go to Zeta all the time if the model settled there. Natalie realizes that if they take the model in, they will avoid a lot of problems. Shelley meets her new roommates and says she loves the sisterhood. The model shocks Natalie and her friends by walking around without a dressing gown after showering. The superintendent shows Shelley her plans to raise money, but they turn out to be quite unimpressive. The model suggests adding a little frankness to get more attention. Shelley decides to have a car wash in a swimming costume. Compared to her gray neighbors, the model looks incredible. Not everyone is thrilled with her idea, but Natalie realizes that this is the only way they can raise money and save their hostel. Soon, a guy who the superintendent likes to approach the car. Shelley decides to help her and advises her to behave more relaxed. Natalie decides to get the guy's attention, but does so more awkwardly. Colby, who the superintendent likes, invites the Zeta girls over for a fun night out. Natalie tries to talk with the guy, however Mona spoils things by turning on the strong pressure in the hose. The guys leave and say that they already have a lot of guests in the evening. Mona is pleased, as she wants to continue to be the outsider who is willing to bristle at anything. Natalie has an argument with the girl and leaves for the house. Shelley, meanwhile, meets a guy who puts up flyers. The model learns that Oliver works in a shelter for the elderly. The boy suggests Shelley come to visit them sometime, as they are always in need of volunteers. The model returns to the hostel and proposes that everyone should work at the nursing home. Shelley also wants everyone to be able to have fun and enjoy themselves, so she suggests going to a club. There, the model takes turns offering the girls to flirt with the opposite sex, but realizes that this is rather a bad idea. Soon, the girls from another dormitory offer Zeta to sing a song. However, the lyrics change to a more offensive one, and it becomes clear that it is all part of one big joke. At home, Shelley says that the girls need to get over being losers and not tolerate this attitude. When a planted pig shows up at Zeta, the model and the others decide that they must rally together and completely change themselves. First, Shelley decides to change the appearance of the dormitory to make it look more attractive. Then the model picks up new outfits for her students and tells them the basic secrets of communicating with men. After that, a new lesson begins, because now Shelley wants the girls to learn how to beautify themselves with makeup. After homeschooling, it's time to move on to more specialized places. Shelley takes the girls to the beauty parlor for a hair treatment and makeover. After that, it is time for manicures and hand care. Once they have finished with their hair, the girls head to the shopping center where they buy themselves new, bolder, and brighter outfits. When Zeta's group comes out in their new looks, it's literally impossible to take your eyes off them. Shelley suggests that the girls have a photo shoot for a calendar, which they can then sell. Meanwhile, Oliver is working in a nursing home when he notices that all the men's eyes are on the exit. It turns out that a bewitching Shelley has appeared at the door. The model gives Oliver a check with money to help the pensioners, and also says that she has brought some volunteers with her. Shelley manages to help the guy organize a dance lesson, which makes the old people very happy. Oliver is impressed with the model and suggests that they have dinner together sometime. Meanwhile, Hefner returns to the Playboy Mansion. The man is surprised that Shelley is nowhere to be seen. Marvin gives Hefner a letter saying that the model has decided to go to Africa to help orphans. It turns out that Shelley's rival has set up the whole thing to get her competitor kicked out. Meanwhile, things are going great for Zeta. Everyone is literally buying calendars and enjoying the company of beautiful girls. Natalie finally manages to start a relationship with a guy she really likes. Shelley decides to throw an incredible party in honor of this. The model also helps Joan, who has been wearing a corset all her life, to get rid of it and realize that her back is healthy. Soon, Shelley is throwing the kind of party that has never been seen before. A bunch of students flock to Zat's house, which in a month has gone from an outsider's haven to a place with incredibly beautiful and cool girls. Natalie reconnects with her boyfriend and follows Shelley's advice. The girls from the other dorm are furious, as the popularity has clearly left them and moved on to Zeta. Shelley rocks out with a bunch of guests and feels incredibly happy. The model has friends, parties, and everything else she could ever want again. Soon, Shelley is in for another incredible experience. The model goes on a date with Oliver, where she burns her feet, trying to repeat the style of Marilyn Monroe. Shelley is perplexed, as the guy is interested in her character, not her figure or other related things. Oliver doesn't fall for any of the model's tricks, and soon leaves. At the dorm, Natalie suggests that the guy might be interested in a smart girl who has interests and reason. To become smart, Shelley starts studying with the girls and even takes classes. The model decides to change her style and then asks Oliver out again. This time, Shelley only talks about politics and other smart things, not realizing that it doesn't exactly make her look good either. The waiter recognizes the model as the Playboy girl, but she vehemently denies it. Shelley runs out of the date, realizing she hasn't impressed the guy. Marvin confesses the deception to Hefner, and the man calls the model. The man offers Shelley to come back and also promises to make her Miss November, just like she dreamed. Listening to this, the model looks sadly at Natalie and the other girls in their dorm. Shelley rejects Hefner and says she has found her new home. However, when the model enters the hostel, the girls literally pounce on her with accusations, believing that she has turned them all into nothing. Shelley realizes she was very wrong and leaves the hostel. The model calls Hefner back and says she's ready to come back. Shelley goes back to the mansion, and the dorm girls partially regain their style. Natalie stops being self-conscious about her intelligence and finally meets the guy of her dreams. Shelley, meanwhile, realizes that she can no longer be a model who only cares about her appearance and nothing else. The model decides to leave the pavilion and soon notices Natalie. Shelley learns that the girls from the other dorm stole their letters for the 30 girls who wanted to join Zeta. At a meeting tonight, it is announced that Zeta is closing. Shelley asks her friends not to give up. She truly believes there is still a chance to make things right. Right at the meeting, the model gives a heartfelt speech about not relying on looks alone. Shelley has realized that it is much more important not to lose herself, to have interests and loyal friends. The model asks for volunteers to join Zeta and save them from closure. Lots of girls raise their hands, and the chairman starts counting the votes. Unfortunately, there are only 29 who have raised their hands. The chairman prepares to close the meeting, but then a girl from a rival dorm says she is ready to move to Zeta. Shelley returns to the Zeta house and is glad they are saved. However, the model is sad that she lied to Oliver about going to Peru and will never see him again. However, it turns out that Natalie told the boy the truth a long time ago and invited him to their house. Oliver says that he knows about girls' past, however, he is ready to start over. This is the end of the film. Thank you all for watching this video to the end. Give this video a like, write in the comments what you think about this film, and see you in new videos.